was helicoptered off the island, my blood pressure was sky high. From that day on, it was just a downhill ride. Central nervous system dysfunction, I think, is probably the best way I can describe it. Headaches, a lot of body pain, chronic fatigue. Here I am in this state that it's come through a decision that I made to get it done. So now I have to find a way to be good with that. It's given me the capacity to slow down and be really present with myself. These are all things I kind of knew how to do before, but I was always too busy. What I really want to share is the truth of the story and what happened to me, but I also want to share the fact that I want to put that story to bed because I want to re-story myself. I want to find a way to live well with what's happened to me instead of going down the rabbit hole, because that doesn't serve me in terms of my healing and my recovery, which is, I'm still very much focused on that as a possibility. Before I took the vaccine, I was actually living the life of my dreams. I had actually done some work about 15 years before, which was around creative visualization of what I wanted in my life. And I was living it. I was living the dream. I was traveling overseas. I was teaching. I was meeting amazing people. I was doing the work that I loved with a passion. I was really stepping into my gifts. I kind of, right out of my comfort zone to do that. But I felt like I was flying. You may have heard something called forest bathing. That's how it's referred to here. It's as a forest therapy guide and a trainer and a mentor of other guides. It's work that I came across in my late 50s. I love to go out into nature and just be present with it, and to discover the beauty and the joy in the little things. So I trained as a guide in the States back at the very beginning. I was one of the first guides outside of Japan and the US to train. I was the first, actually. And so then I brought that practice back to New Zealand and I've watched it evolve and grow. And then when the whole virus thing hit and the doors were closed, and the whole vaccine thing started coming through, part of me doesn't know why I took it. I can think of some reasons. So I live in a very small community and there was a lot of pressure to get this done. The head nurse basically told me, this is your only chance, so it's now or never kind of thing. And I knew that I was not going to be able to travel anymore if I didn't have a jab. So I thought, right, okay, I'm just going to go get this done. And at that stage I was feeling probably the most well and healthy that I had felt in years. And that's really saying something. I was diagnosed with ME, chronic fatigue syndrome, in 1986, and so I was immunologically vulnerable, and yet we were assured that we were the people that needed the jab, actually, like publicly. That's what the message was. At no time was I given any advice not to take this vaccine or to even think about it. My homeopath did actually warn me. She said, I don't want you to take this, Vicki. And I said, no, I'll be fine. I'm feeling really well at the moment. And I was. And I knew I had to look after myself well. But part of me thought, this is going to help and I'm good, good to go. But I wasn't. My vaccine journey started 3.5 years ago in May 2021, May the 28th. It's etched in my mind. And a few days after that, I started having headaches and brain fog, just not feeling right. And I thought, this is the vaccine. And then 10 days after the vaccine, I had this episode, because nobody really knows what it was. They call it a transient global amnesia. I was teaching online at the time. I had a very tight schedule. It was all written down in front of me. And I looked at my page and things were not making sense. I was reading words, but there was complete brain confusion around them. It was just a very, very odd sensation, and I didn't know where the heck I was. I didn't know what I'd said. I lost all memory of the whole morning that had preceding this, and I was in a state of total confusion, and I didn't know what was going on, basically. I was working with a colleague in the States at the time, and she thought I was having a stroke. So she sort of closed me down in terms of teaching and took over the training, and then coached me for 3 hours online over the computer to get some help. So it took 3 hours for a nurse to arrive. I think I must have rung the medical centre several times, and they eventually thought something's not right. So they sent somebody down to my house, picked me up, took me to the medical centre, and I was helicoptered off the island. My blood pressure was sky high, like 200 over 125, I think. I arrived at Auckland Hospital by helicopter, and I was kept in overnight. This sort of brain stuff went on for about 10 hours, I think, and then I started coming back into myself. From that day on, it was just a downhill ride. I've had multiple central nervous system dysfunction, I think is probably the best way I can describe it. Headaches, a lot of body pain, chronic fatigue. There's a whole raft of symptoms. So that's the physical reality of what happened to me. But what that has done, and I want to reframe this, what that has done is it's taken me on this internal journey. It's given me the capacity to slow down and be really present with myself, and to go into deep meditation to find peace inside me. These are all things I kind of knew how to do before, but I was always too busy. I still find I have quite a lot of resistance to living a life that's horizontal, because that's actually what my body wants to do all the time. And I still have such a zest for life. I can't lose that. You know, I've been down the bottom of the rabbit hole with this and got very depressed, very incapacitated, and it was like my whole world had closed in, and I ain't going to go there again. So I have to find ways around that. Part of that is calling in that peace that I know is inside me, and finding ways to practice more tender loving care towards myself on a daily basis. So listening to my body, but it's a work in progress, I tell you. So one of my strategies is going out into nature, getting my feet in the ocean. Starting my day off with that is just like the best thing I can possibly do. Even taking a quick dip, like skinny dip when no one's around. It just really revitalizes my whole body and gives me that sense of, wow, life is amazing, even if that's only fleeting, but I know it's there and I know it's possible. I'm still learning how not to push myself through to getting tasks completed, because that's a difficult thing for me. I like to, if I start something, I want it done. And yet my body might start getting overwhelmed very, very quickly with any small activity. And my tendency is to push through that, and then I crash, then I collapse. So it's a process of really learning to listen to that. Okay, you need to go sit down now. You need to go lie down for 20 minutes, and giving myself permission to do that. And that's a challenge when you're somebody that's active and likes to do things. It's a learning journey. This thing happened when I was training online, and then being on computer is a trigger for all the central nervous system and the brain issues that I experience. So I've had to, with a lot of grief and a lot of emotion, step down from that online work, which I did in May this year. I'm still doing a very little mentoring work online, which is easy for me. But the teaching was just too much. It was too much to hold a classroom of 40 online and teach them when I had all this crazy stuff going on in my brain. So I stepped down from that. I do a little bit of in-person guiding and in-person work, but it has to be planned really carefully because my energy levels are so low. I'm doing a lot of self-care, personal self-care practices. Some of them involve meditation, ongoing physical support I give my body in terms of nutrition and health supplements and things. But I'm learning more and more about neuroplasticity and this thing called psychoneuroendocrine immunology. I think it's what it's called. It's a very complex, long, long name. But it's around how to retrain your brain to make smaller the parts that have been impacted by the damage to my nervous system, and grow the parts of my brain that can help me better with the correct hormone balance and things like the right levels of dopamine and serotonin and stuff like that. So that's the sort of chemical part of it. But it's also about, on a spiritual level, for me, it's very much a spiritual journey. So it's about finding ways to live gracefully and graciously with what's happened, instead of embedding myself in the pain of it all and the suffering aspect. It's around how can I move on from that, through that, not denying it, but move through that. Use that as a tool to find some closure and healing. This is the way I have been for a number of years. My life has been hard. I won't say it's been easy, so it hasn't always been this way. But I've never felt that thing, I've got to end it all. I've always had this thing inside me that knows there is more to life than this body. There's more to life than just the things that happen to me. I have this strong desire to not only survive, but to thrive. And I have been in survival mode, but to thrive and to find my joy, because I see so much beauty around me, and I think life is a gift. It really is. I had 6 things that requests for review in terms of government protocols around vaccine and vaccine injured. Vaccine exemptions for anybody that needs them, whether it's from medical, spiritual, ethical, any reason. And it's compensation for those of us that really, really need that for ongoing support, because I'm spending every single cent that I have on my health and well-being, and it's hundreds of dollars a month, and that's unsustainable. I'm just going backwards financially, and now I've lost my source of income. I would like the government and the Ministry of Health to apologise, just accepting some responsibility. And I think that would go a hell of a long way for many of us, just even saying that. Sorry, we got it wrong. We messed up, and we're really sorry for what we've done, for the harm that we've caused. It's painful because wrong has been done, and what has been done has been cruel. It's been wicked. It goes beyond belief, really. I think that's the whole thing. It's like a dagger in my back and a dagger in my heart, because there's something so wrong with that. Because they know there are many of us out here that are really suffering. They know they're culpable for that, but not one of them is prepared to stand up and say, we did this, we're really sorry. It has been traumatic. It's been traumatic for us as people that have been affected. It's been traumatic for our families. I do feel angry. I tell you what triggers me. This is a trigger. When I walk down the road and I see flags waving outside of pharmacy shops saying, come and get your COVID jab, I just want to go and smash them. There's a part of me that's just still feels really, it triggers me into anger and like, why are they still doing this? Why? Because they know. Here I am in this state that it's come through a decision that I made to get it done. And so now I have to find a way to be good with that and to see that as part of my own evolution as a soul in this body, in this lifetime. I'm still making my peace with it, but I feel like in order for me to have successful closure, it's really important that I do make my peace with that and I focus on the gifts that it's brought me. I've learned how to ask for help and to receive help. I've always been a giver. I'm an empath, and I've always offered myself in service. And it's now, hey, hang on a minute, girl, your next part of your journey is to learn how to receive back. And just, really that other opportunity to dig really, really deep to get to the essence of me. Who am I? What am I here for? How am I going to shine through adversity? And I think we all have to do that in this life. If we're to be really of service to the world and to ourselves and to people around us, we have to have the capacity to go deep inside. And I think the more adversity that happens to us, the more we are able to actually hold space for other people and help them on their healing journeys. I just want to thank you both for this opportunity, and I'm actually really pleased I was able to say what I said, because this, I'd mentioned before, this weekend has been I've intentionally set this to be closure this weekend with the old story. And I'm really proud of myself for saying what I've said today, because the reality is my body's fucked. And I'm in so much pain and discomfort most of the time. It's really hard for me to think positively. So this is the way forward. So trying to reframe things as my spiritual journey and to speak that is a really powerful thing. Thank you.
All right, we didn't really talk about your pain, but...
What's that? No, don't need to go there. No, I know what that's all about.
You don't look like you're in pain.
No, I know, and that's the thing. But we look normal. We look like, sometimes if you see me like this today, it's a different story.